Today, Bitcoin continues its losses from last week. The SEC's crypto asset enforcement chief leaves the agency. And Jacob Martin of Two Punk Capital weighs in on crypto's growing influence in Washington, D.C. Welcome to CNBC's Crypto World. I'm Brandon Gomez. Bitcoin kicking off the week with a 2% slide by noon Eastern. The cryptocurrency traded at the $65,000 level. Ether also falling more than 2% this morning to $34.95, while Solana dropped 4.8% to $141. Okay, let's talk about the top stories for today. Gemini is distributing the last of its repayments to users of its Earn lending product. The crypto lender said on Friday that the remaining 3% of digital assets owed to customers would be available in their Gemini accounts within 7 days. Gemini said it would be the final distribution of assets and that Earn users will have received 100% of the assets owed to them as of November 16th, the last day withdrawals were suspended. At the same time, Gemini said it reached an agreement with the New York State Attorney General to settle a lawsuit brought back in October. The AG's office announced on Friday that it had recovered $50 million from Gemini to repay investors it says were defrauded by the Earn program. Next, a BlackRock exec says financial advisors are wary of Bitcoin ETFs, but might be slowly warming up to them as well. While speaking at the Coinbase State of Crypto Summit last week, Samara Cohen, the asset manager's chief investment officer of ETF and index investments, said that right now, about 80% of Bitcoin ETF purchases are likely coming from self-directed investors. Now, those are people who have, for instance, made the purchase through their online brokerage account. Cohen said this asset class has faced as high as 90% price volatility, and that it is an investment advisor's job to do risk analysis and due diligence, which is what they're doing right now. You can read her full comments and more from the Coinbase conference over at cnbc.com/cryptoworld. Last, the head of the SEC's Crypto Asset and Cyber Enforcement Unit has left the agency. According to a post on LinkedIn, David Hirsch announced that Friday was his last day after serving at the agency for 9 years. Hirsch played a role in several pivotal crypto enforcement actions by the SEC, including those against Kraken, Coinbase, and Terraform Labs. He said in his LinkedIn post that he got to work on, quote, more complex, challenging investigations than he would have ever imagined, and expressed pride in the historic work done by the crypto asset and the cyber unit team. All right, let's keep talking about Washington for our main story today. Crypto World's Tanea McKeel spoke with Jacob Martin, co-founder of Two Punk Capital, about crypto's growing influence in the 2024 election and on Capitol Hill.
What do you make of the recent focus on crypto coming from both the Trump and to some extent the Biden campaigns ahead of the upcoming election here in the US?
Yeah, I think one is obviously reactionary to the other. Like you mentioned, I think the Biden administration is a little easier to reference as far as like if the Trump campaign thinks it's as important as they seem to, with kind of constantly talking about crypto right now, calling himself the crypto president, whatever that might mean, at David Sachs's dinner last week. And then, speaking of mining in the US and whatnot, like the administration, the campaign is saying they will go quite hard. And then the current administration seems to be saying, well, okay, maybe we'll start accepting donations in crypto. Let's talk to Coinbase. Let's start to open the conversations a little bit, but we're not hearing anything specific from the president right now on what he likes or even dislikes, right? It's more the people under him.
Something and I'm sure you and a lot of people are hearing again and again is this idea that crypto has become a key issue for the upcoming election. I know as a reporter covering the markets and investing side of crypto that it certainly has become something of a catalyst for the price of Bitcoin. But in the other direction, how much weight do you give that? Give me a reality check on this. Are we all just living in our own little bubble here, or is it growing that much as a topic of interest for the election?
Yeah, I think when you look at how important it's becoming in foreign countries, that helps kind of point towards what should happen here and what I think is trailing. So when you see El Salvador's president purchasing Bitcoin and talking about what they're going to change at a country level, and then A16Z opening offices in London and Chris Dixon posting pictures with the prime minister over there and saying, look, if London is going to be open to us, we'll come work over there. Like, we'll open an office. So I think in the US, when you've got 60 to 80 million people, depending on which data you're looking at, that have crypto in a wallet, and that, through the ETF inflows, I've seen, anywhere between 70 and 80% of those purchases are self-directed retail as well. Like, people want to have crypto themselves and they want access to it. And I don't know if we've ever had a topic where 60 to 80 million people cared about it and the incumbent president didn't care about it, right? If it was manufacturing, if it was labor, if it was schools, if it was hospitals, 60 to 80 million people is a large enough chunk of the country that it should be a major campaign topic.
What would a Trump versus Biden presidency mean for the crypto industry? But more importantly, what does their support at this moment mean for the industry, taking into account that, it's likely that neither of them might be able to fulfill on every single promise that is made, other priorities come up. So can you talk a little bit about the support that we're hearing now versus, what that might look like in reality down the road on either side?
Yeah, I think bull markets cause statements of excitement that can't be fully expected to be acted upon, right? And I think there's a lot of things being said by one side right now with not much being said by the other side. So if you're going to just take the law of percentages a little bit, in an ideal world, if you had a Trump presidency and he's saying this many things, and you have a Biden presidency who's saying this many things that he'll do for crypto, even if the Trump campaign only converts on 10 to 20% of what they're saying right now. And keep in mind, I think the most important thing that typically gets missed by the average consumer is checks and balances. Our country's built with checks and balances for a reason. So even a president can put forward 100 things they really like. And if only 10 of them go through, the 10% conversion rate is not exactly they only fulfilled 10% of what they said. It's like that's what got through a bipartisan Senate and House. And, both sides had to have agreed to a certain amount of these things. So I think in the last, week, it's important to note that, President Trump has mentioned everything from let's get rid of income tax and go full to tariffs, all the way to let's keep Bitcoin mining fully in the US. Like, not all of these things can or will happen, obviously. But I think the way it's being seen and the way I'm seeing it received is more positive towards crypto, means one side is more likely to actually do something useful as far as stablecoin bills go, or allowing for ETFs to pursue further angles towards consumers having crypto and not being scared of what might happen next.
Well, crypto is vast. There are different players in it, different use cases, different sectors. It's not just all about Bitcoin anymore. What would you say to either of the candidates should be the biggest priority for the crypto industry in terms of, bringing, allowing capital and talent to kind of flow back over here in the US when this country has struggled on the regulatory front with crypto for so long and seen at least a beginning of an exodus or outflow of that talent and capital to other countries?
Yeah, I went to Washington, D.C. last summer for the first time as a donor, where I gave money to both red and blue candidates that seemed open to crypto, with a small contingent of 12 people. And in these sit downs, the point was just to get across, like, look, Coinbase's reach overseas is growing mainly because it's not comfortable here in the US they keep getting sued, right? The SEC has gone after Coinbase repeatedly. Multiple of our top companies in this country have been directly sued by the government after asking for years what the rules should be, or say, hey, here's what we think the rules are. Can you give us more clarity? So what I would tell current President Biden and potential future President Biden, as well as former President Trump, potential future President Trump, is if you don't want to see innovation go offshore, most of the top people working at these companies, most of the top people you would want working at these companies are coming out of the Ivy League schools or the UCs, which skew quite Democrat anyways. Well, at some point, if they feel like voting blue is going to make them have to leave the country, that's a problem. So if you're going to make a country seem or be directly hostile to an entire innovation stack, that is enough to send people offshore. And the data shows I think as recently as last year, 15 of the top 20 crypto companies were foreign based. Legal entities not in the US, CEOs not in the US. Even if they were born here, they know operating here is not in their best interest right now. And that's a problem.
Okay, that's all for Crypto World today. We're back again tomorrow. We'll see you then.